Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat GP, the podcast where we share everything about life in Grand Prairie, Alberta. This podcast is brought to you with the kind support of TELUS STORYHIVE. And I'm typically your host, Demar. This podcast is being filmed in Grand Prairie and all those fun stuff. I have a guest here who's not really a guest, but the host of today, and I am in the hot seat. At first, let's ask our host, to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natasha. And yes, I'm the co-host for today. And I am a young lady that lives here in Grand Prairie for almost 6 years now, and I'm loving it with my family. And yes, he's in the hot seat for today, so I'm going to be grilling him about his life here in Grand Prairie.
It's not every day I get to be in the hot seat, so I guess I have to enjoy it. I promise to answer all questions truthfully. Please to take it easy on me. And our intention is to make sure that we are being as open and transparent as possible as about life in Grand Prairie, Alberta. So, Miss Natasha, give it your best shot.
Okay. So who have watched the previous episode might have known a little bit about you, but not everyone. Could you tell us more about Demar?
Oh, who is Demar? Well, first and foremost, my name is Demar Anderson. I'm a Jamaican immigrant who moved to Grand Prairie back in 2019 with my family. I came to Canada as an international student, and yeah, I came to the city of Grand Prairie with my family. The intention was to stay here for a year, and then as soon as I'm done with school, I'm out of here. But here I am 6 years later, living the Grand Prairie dream.
Okay. So what made you stay?
What made me stay in Grand Prairie? That's such a good question, actually. So, as I mentioned before, I wanted to get out of Grand Prairie as soon as possible, but Grand Prairie is one of those cities that I realize it really grows on you. It has a very slow pace, and that slow pace usually causes a lot of persons to be stopped right in their track. I was no different. That was me as well, coming from Jamaica, which was a fast paced society, the hustle and the bustle. And then when I got to Grand Prairie, everything was kind of like a crawling pace, a slow pace. It kind of made me realize that there's more to life. So Grand Prairie allowed me to kind of just slow down and just enjoy the finer things in life in terms of nature and family and just being able to go outdoor and smell the coffee as they call it.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell in love with that. Also the convenience of the city. The city is pretty convenient in the sense that traveling in and around the city is very easy. You're able to travel from one end of the city to the other end of the city within 10 to 15 minutes, which is pretty convenient. I don't like to go to the bigger cities because I get grumpy whenever I go there because it takes too long to travel around. So it kind of makes me appreciate Grand Prairie more. And also the amount of opportunities that's in Grand Prairie is something that I definitely value and I appreciate. And yeah, and that's why I decided to stay in the city of Grand Prairie.
Okay, that's awesome. Let's backtrack a bit. You said you came here in 2019 with your family. What was the first impression of Grand Prairie?
Whew. Now, when I moved to Grand Prairie from Jamaica, it's very important to note that I've never traveled outside of Jamaica before. So this was now my first realization of anywhere else outside of Jamaica. So this was my first point of contact. I always tell people that. So when I just got here, the first thing I noticed is everyone was driving on the right side of the road, and I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here?" So it kind of sounds a bit minuscule, but in Jamaica we drive on the left side of the road. So when I came here and everyone is on the right side of the road, it seemed a little bit strange at first. The other thing that I noticed was how cold the weather was, even though I landed in the middle of summer. I landed in the middle of summer, and at that point in time, coming from plus 38 to plus 12, it felt like a drastic shift. It felt really cold. And of course, the buildings, the people, everyone was very friendly. I remember when I used to take the bus when I just got here, all the bus drivers were very friendly and they were very welcoming and they were like just very attentive to the
Mhm.
passengers and making sure that everyone knows where they're going. And if you had any questions, they'll direct you. And all of those things just kind of like made me realize that this was a fantastic city to be in. And over the course of the year, in 2019, I got to meet some more persons. I was
Mhm.
in school at the time, made some friends, and then I realized that hey, Grand Prairie could be home.
You mentioned that it was like in Jamaica, the drive on the left, and then here in Canada, driving on the right. What w- was it scary when you got your first car?
It was very scary actually. Now, my first car was a VW Beetle. Can
Hmm.
you picture me in a Beetle?
No.
Close your eyes and picture it. That was my first car. And it was definitely a learning curve.
Mhm.
And there was many times when I was on the road and I was drifting to the left because muscle memory brings me right back to driving back in Jamaica. However, I quickly realized that hey, you have to stay on the right and stuff like that. And it was a mental shift. It was a mental shift not only from a perspective of driving on the left, but also getting adjusted to all those photo radars. The photo radars were more hard to get adjusted to than driving on the right because when I moved here, I got like 4 or 3 tickets. I don't quite remember within the first week of since I started driving because there were just certain things that we used to do back home in terms of stop signs, the road code, and all of that was a lot different here. At the
Mhm.
time, I was driving on my international driving permit, so I didn't actually got my Alberta license yet. I didn't actually understand the road code of driving in Alberta yet. So it's kind of like one of those things that you fake it till you make it. So I got a lot of tickets that first week, and then that definitely caused me to learn quickly.
Was expensive.
Yeah, that was a very expensive lesson. It
Yes.
was a very expensive lesson, but one of those things that was worth learning for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, um, could you give me a time frame or how long it took you to actually fully integrate into Grandpa?
Somewhat, I think I'm still integrating into Grand Prairie 6 years later. There's no real right or wrong answer for that question. But in terms of getting my foot on the ground, in terms of getting my first apartment and also getting my first job, I think those things really helped in integrating into community because you start meeting more persons and you start
Mhm.
learning more of the culture. So within the first 6 months, I'd say I was kind of like on my path to integrating into Grand Prairie. But one very useful thing that I should share throughout this conversation is that shortly after moving to Grand Prairie, that was when COVID-19 was really prevalent in the city of Grand Prairie, not just in the city of Grand Prairie,
The
but in the
world.
world.
Mhm.
So I was on lockdown, like essential services only were going to work, and it was a pretty scary time. So that kind of like not allowed me to integrate as quickly as I thought I would have if there wasn't any COVID-19. And COVID lasts for like a year and a half in terms of businesses being open, closed. So whilst I was a part of the community, I wasn't in the community because there was nothing to do. Everything was fairly closed, nothing was open, no gathering, stuff like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So it was just from you went from going to school, making friends, meeting people to going to school behind a computer, and stuff like that. So my integration would have been a lot quicker, but my path to integration started, I'd say, 6 months or so after being here.
6 months or so. Awesome. What is one thing you will say you love about Grandpa? You have maybe you have a list, but what is that one thing that you love?
Hmm. Probably have to think about that one. That one thing that probably stands out to me in my mind about Grand Prairie is the opportunities that exist in Grand Prairie for work and to actually start a business or to really self actualize. I think Grand Prairie provides the perfect platform for persons who are looking to strive and grow.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that I love more or most about Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie is usually considered to be recession proof because it has a lot of thriving industries, energy, oil and gas, forestry, agriculture. We have all heard it. And a lot of persons come to Grand Prairie predominantly for the opportunities. So I like the fact that Grand Prairie has a lot of opportunities. But even though you asked for one, I'll give you another one. I like the fact that Grand Prairie is actually growing pretty quickly in the sense that there's a lot of persons who are coming to Grand Prairie and that is leading up to a lot of diversity
Mm-hmm.
within the community. When I just came to Grand Prairie, it wasn't very diverse. There was a lot of different cultures here. However, there wasn't as much culture here as there is right now. Right now, you have a number of different food options. You have Mexican restaurants you can go to, you have Indian restaurants, you have Greek restaurants, you have a number of different options. Before, all of these things were just in a bigger city, but now you have different options outside of regular poutine and fries. So I definitely like that for sure.
As you mentioned, poutine and fries. What's your favorite Canadian? What is your favorite Canadian dish? Or and what is your favorite Canadian sport, if you do like any?
Favorite Canadian dish. Let's start with that. I'm not sure if there's actually like a Canadian dish per se outside of poutine. And poutine is not my favorite. But if I should say my favorite North American dish would probably be hmm, it's a tough one, you know. That's a tough one because I'm not very adventurous when it comes down to trying new food per se. But I'm not. I can't tell you more what I don't like
No.
more than
Okay,
what I
what
tell what I.
don't you like?
My least favorite is steak.
Oh,
I'm not a steak kind of guy. I don't like it. I've tried it many times and it's not my favorite. Not my favorite. I'm gonna be that guy. My favorite is probably mashed potatoes and asparagus. Asparagus, with probably some grilled chicken or something like that. Pretty basic. And asparagus soup. I've tried that.
do you
And it's
like
pretty
it?
good. It's pretty good. I'm telling you, it's pretty good. So I'd probably put that right now as top of my list. Now the second part of the question you asked was my favorite Canadian sport. I'd probably have to say hockey.
Okay, okay.
I'm before coming to Canada, I didn't know much about hockey. I didn't understand hockey. I've never played hockey, still haven't played hockey. I haven't even gone skating. It's on my list of things to do, I know. But hockey is definitely my favorite right now, not so much because of the sport itself, but because of the rivalry and
Mm-hmm.
the overall culture of hockey within the community that we live, right? Grand Prairie has its own hockey team, the Grand Prairie Storm. But what I've come to realize is that a lot of persons in Grand Prairie support the Oilers. Probably 90% of the population support the Oilers, and then the other 10% or probably
Flames.
8% is the Calgary Flames, and the other 2% is spread out, like different all over, depending on where they're from. But hockey is definitely something that I've gotten to respect
Mm-hmm.
and something that I've definitely want to learn more about. So definitely, it's my favorite
Favorite.
Canadian sport.
As you also knows that we have a lot, like we have 4 seasons. Um, which one do you like the best?
I can tell you my least favorite.
I know you're gonna say, but
My least favorite is winter.
I know.
Let's do 4-3-2-1. How
Okay,
about
go ahead.
that?
Go ahead.
So my least favorite and number four on the list is definitely winter. I'm pretty grumpy throughout the winter time. Winter is not my favorite season of the year. Not just because it's always cold, but because it's dark and because it's it's just not a season where a lot of persons are outdoor or not. Persons are generally not that happy throughout the winter time,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, it kind of creates a lot of feeling of depression, anxiety, and a number of different underlying feelings that I personally, when I just came to Canada, didn't really understand why I was feeling these kind of way emotions and stuff like that. But then the longer I'm in Grand Prairie and the longer I'm in Canada, I realize more and more that it has to do with winter
Mm-hmm.
and just everything that comes with it. I know get involved in winter sports might be a way to do it, deal with it. A lot of persons watching this right now might be saying, learn some winter sport and you won't feel the same
So
way.
how do you deal with all of this, like
Oh,
seasonal depression?
let me come back to that. Let me go back to the four, three,
Wait,
two,
okay,
one.
go that. Yeah.
The number three on the list is definitely spring. Spring is my third least
Least.
favorite,
Mhm.
is because spring it's starting to warm up, but it's still somewhat cold and it's still wet and it's just starting to get bright out, but still somewhat dark. Second on the list is fall.
It's
Um,
still cold. That's cool as
it's
well.
it's
Get in.
yeah, it's kind of reminding you that winter is coming. But it's second on the list because there's things about fall that I really like as well.
The leaves and the trees.
Absolutely, the
Yes.
beauty that comes with fall. Fall is beautiful, and also the temperature sometimes in fall can be considered the sweet spot. It
Mm.
because it's like the perfect balance between warmth and
And
it's just cool and nice and chill, and then you can be outside and you can take some pictures. And you know what? It's not that dark yet.
that's true.
So fall is my second favorite, and my first favorite is absolutely summer. I love summer because that is when you put on your barbecue apron and you get your stick and you get your grill
Mm-hmm.
and you fire up the grill and you have friends over and it gets dark at midnight and yes, good times. Anyways, you're asking how do I deal with
With
seasonal
seasonal depression,
depression
yeah.
and stuff like that. That's a very good question. Seasonal depression is something that actually affects a lot of persons, and a lot of persons don't even understand that they're going through seasonal depression. Now, personally, what I do to get over seasonal depression is to make sure that I am taking my vitamins. Vitamin D is very important, especially in the wintertime. There's not much sunlight, there's not much natural sources for you to get it, so you have to get in that additional intake. And now I've found a newfound love for the gym. So I've been going to the gym a lot, and that actually helps a lot with my mental health in general. And it helps me to just balance back myself and to make sure that I am doing the best I can to keep myself in shape and also mentally. The other thing that I realize is that it's very easy to be isolated throughout winter. So how I mitigate that, I try to connect with friends and family as much as possible. Whilst it's not always possible for you to go outside because it's cold and stuff, so then you can invite persons over or you can go over.
Yep.
So you don't want to sit in your slumber. You don't want to sit in your slumber because when you sit down, that feeling of isolation and depression is when it really comes on to you. So you have to make sure that you are now inviting persons in your space and you are going into other person's space just to make sure that you are doing your best to navigate those feelings of anxiety and depression that we all know comes with winter.
That's awesome. So, as you mentioned before, been here from 2019 in Grand Prairie. There's no perfect society or no perfect city. What are some of the improvements you think that should be done to Grand Prairie, like the number one spot in Alberta?
Quite a few things. Number one spot in Alberta might definitely be a challenge to get there,
Mm-hmm.
but there's definitely a lot of things that the city can do to get on part to competing with the number one cities in Alberta. And one of the things that I really and truly think the city can do is really build overhead bypasses. Right as it is
Oh,
right now, you have train tracks that run through the middle of the city. So depending on where in the city you live, then you are impeded by the train, and sometimes the train can be very lengthy, 20 minutes sometimes. And if you have an emergency, there's no way around it, and it feels like just a accident waiting to happen in the sense that you don't want to have an emergency and then the train is there. There's no set schedule for the train to pass either. It's really like Russian roulette, it's hit or miss. So I believe that probably having overhead bypasses can mitigate some of those things as well. The other thing I think the city can do is to be fair, the city is definitely doing efforts to make this happen, but we want to see more diversity in positions of influence.
mm.
In positions of influence, there is no real diversity unless there's diversity in position of influence. You want to make sure that when it comes to making decisions, there is enough voices at the table that actually encompass the community. You have a diverse community, so you need a diverse body of decision makers that can represent the community in every sense of the word. As it is right now, I think there's room for improvement when it comes on to having diversity in positions of influence. So I definitely say those are two of the things that jump out
You.
in my mind. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your family. Have they integrated well into the community? How are they finding Grand Prairie?
Okay. Well, my family first off is consists of my wife, and I have two daughters.
Yeah.
I have a 3-year-old going on 30, and I have a 7-year-old nonverbal autistic daughter. Now, my 7-year-old daughter was born in Jamaica, and my 3-year-old daughter was born here in Grand Prairie. So let's start with my wife firstly.
Mhm.
I think she's integrated pretty quickly, similar to me. COVID played a factor throughout integrating because when I was a student, she was working and then she lost all her jobs because of COVID-19. So that kind of set her back in integrating within the community. My oldest daughter, my 7-year-old daughter, as I mentioned, she is a bit delayed, autistic. But she's now been in Grand Prairie for longer than she's been in Jamaica. So Grand Prairie is home for her, similar to her younger sister, who is born here and has never been to Jamaica, at least not yet.
Yeah.
So this is all she knows. This is where she lives. This is the only city and town that she is known. So she's definitely a lot more into winter than me. She likes the snow. She gets excited when it's snowing and stuff like that, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" So yeah. So for my family, grandpa is good. We try to do things together a lot in the community. So those are some of the things that I think definitely foster family life in a city like Grand Prairie as well. So yeah.
You mentioned that Grand Prairie, the one word that comes to you is opportunity. Was it difficult for you to find a job when you got here?
For me, no, not necessarily. For my wife, no, not necessarily. But I've known persons who definitely has taken a while for them to find their first job here in the city. And also, it might be a challenge if it is that you are looking for a specific job. I always tell people back then, at least, to be honest, I'm not quite sure what that market is like right now as a new immigrant. But back then, for sure, you were able to get a job.
Yeah.
It might not be the job that you want long term, but
Hmm.
you're able to get a job to put the food on the table. And then, whilst you're looking for a specific job, it might take you a while to find that specific job, but you're at least able to put food on the table while you look for that specific job. Right? As I said, things are a lot different now. I'm not sure what that space is like right now, but for me, I didn't really experience much challenge within the job market when I just came, or even now. I haven't really encountered that significant challenge in finding a job in Grand Prairie, Alberta. And I know quite a few persons who share similar sentiments as me. Whilst I know persons who have found it quite difficult to find
Find
their
a job.
first jobs, even now they're still struggling sometimes to find their first job or even second or third job. So it all depends on opportunity.
What you're
Sometimes
looking for.
what
Yeah.
you're looking for, and also sometimes you're just lucky to have an opportunity presented to you or come across your desk.
Or you're willing to go and look for that.
Hmm. That's right. You are willing to go and look for that job, but
Yeah.
also you have to get the opportunity has to present itself to you as well. So sometimes I was presented an opportunity, I took it, and other person might not have gotten the same opportunity. It doesn't mean that I was doing anything much different than what that other person is doing, but it's just sometimes the right place at the right time, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Question to you as well. When you just got here, backtracking, when you just got here, you say you driving, you got an apartment and everything, and you talk about seasonal depression, right? Would you recommend anyone to live in Grand Prairie?
Um, would I recommend anyone to live in Grand Prairie? Now, that's such a multifaceted question, and I'll answer that question using my own experience. Now, I would definitely recommend for persons who might be looking for somewhere to live
Mhm.
to consider Grand Prairie. I believe that a new immigrant, especially, should consider Grand Prairie because Grand Prairie is very good and kind to newcomers. It's very easy for you to integrate in the community because the community is very open-minded and easily integratable. Persons will help you.
If
Persons
you
will,
ask
if
for
you
it.
ask for it, persons will guide you. Persons will direct you as best as possible. So, with that being said, I absolutely would suggest persons who are looking to move to Canada, or if you're in Canada and you want somewhere else to move to consider Grand Prairie, because I believe that Grand Prairie will reward you as much as you you want to be rewarded, is what I would definitely say if you're looking.
Yeah. What is all right? Tell me 5 things. 5 things, because you have told me a lot already. Tell me 5 things. When somebody says grandpa, 5 things that come to mind
Off the top of my head,
off the top of your head.
just 5 things.
Five
You don't want me
things.
to explain it or
You
anything.
don't have to
Okay.
explain 5 things.
Opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
weather, business,
Business.
mm, culture,
Culture.
and uh, nature.
Nature. You mentioned culture. Uh, do you have a big Jamaican cultural influence in Grand Prairie?
I wouldn't say big, but it's growing.
It's good.
There's quite a few Jamaicans here in Grand Prairie, and there's Caribbean Connections, which is a group that we've created to keep Caribbean persons integrated, help them integrated, and to keep Caribbean culture. So it's growing. It's not where
Where you want
we
it to
want
be?
it to be. It's definitely
Not
not
yet.
as big as other cultures,
Mm-hmm.
but we want to get there.
Yeah.
So there's definitely opportunities for growth, but we're doing the right things to get there as well. So to simply answer your question, there is a lot of Jamaicans here, but there's not a whole lot of Jamaican culture.
Culture.
But we're working on Jamaican culture here as well, and it starts with all of us. It's not just one or two persons. It has to be a collective effort with everyone coming together to make sure that we are doing everything we can to bring Jamaican culture to Grand Prairie as well, whilst also embarking and integrating
Integrating.
in
Exactly.
Grand Prairie culture, because we have all integrated into Grand Prairie. So we are not here to try to change the culture, but we want to be a part of the culture as well.
There you have it, guys. Could you tell me about your first work experience or your first job that you got when you got to Canada?
So my first job was actually a part-time job. I could have only worked 20 hours as a full-time student and a study permit at the time. So my first job was working with an organization where I was a business development professional. Now, my first job was really um, a culture shock for me, because one of the things that I realized is that you can call your boss by their first name, and I wasn't used to that. I'm from Jamaica, where everyone is Mister and Mrs. and very formal. So coming to Canada, where it's you can call persons by their first name, was definitely a culture shock for me. I was just so happy and grateful to get that first job. As I mentioned before, it wasn't very difficult for me to get it, so I was just very grateful and happy.
You were happy.
Yeah.
You said it wasn't difficult for you to get a job, but you kept that job after you finished school?
No, definitely not. So I got into banking shortly after getting that first job. That job was a nice job, but it was very demanding. And as a full-time student, my purpose here at the time was to study, get my qualifications, and then matriculate afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that job was kind of like so demanding, it wasn't possible for me to manage both. So what I did is I made a decision to get into banking at the time, because we all know banking is easy. I'm joking. So banking is one of those jobs that you go to work, and when you're done working, that's it until tomorrow. And I wanted one of those jobs when I was in school. So I started working as a part-time teller. And then over the duration of time in Grand Prairie, I went from that to a full-time teller, to manager of the front line, to a senior financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just some of the roles that I've done here in Grand Prairie. Yeah.
That's awesome. You were mentioning about some of the culture shock. Do you have any more culture shock that you want to share?
Culture shock, as I mentioned, the workplace, you
Yeah.
can call your boss by their first name, is the same in the college. You can call your lecturer, your instructor by their first name. That was something that I wasn't really used to. That was a big culture shock for me. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing was really and truly self-expression, the way how persons express themselves here through the way how they dress, or their tattoos, or their piercings. Coming from Jamaica, which I thought at the time wasn't a very conservative society, but looking back, Jamaica is very conservative, because seeing persons like your doctor have arm sleeve full of tattoos, your banker, all of these things, those were just some of the things that was really shocking, and also just how nice everyone was. everyone was very nice and helpful and stuff like that. So I remember my first winter, I had a flat tire and I was there trying to change it, not knowing how to do it much. And two persons just pulled up to me and they were just like so helpful and willing and stuff like that. So um, everyone was nice. Everyone was really nice, and that was something that really caught me off guard. And those are just some of the stories that keeps me in Grand Prairie and what I really love about Grand Prairie, and I believe that the world should know about the city of Grand Prairie.